What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for moving forward. I'm also going to talk about why NIO sank today and what could end up playing out for tomorrow given this new trend that has formed because we had some huge news that came out. I'm going to break down how this could affect NIO. I'm also going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be a big day as we have some huge data coming out and how this could affect NIO, Tesla SPY, and the QQQ. But before I break anything down and try my best to be very unbiased in this video, let me just mention a couple of things before starting. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so make sure you take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, and it's in just about 1 day, so check it out before they run out. It ends tomorrow. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Okay, NIO was down about 5.51% for the day. It's also down another 7.76% during the after hours, looking relatively weak. But the question is, why did NIO sink like this despite all the bullish signals from yesterday? And the answer is, sometimes, guys, even when technicals look bullish, the market could get a bounce. But if there's a bad piece of news, that news could trump any technicals. And that is very unfortunate. Sometimes things like this happen, and the signals that form could sometimes be used as trickery for many investors. I'm going to break more things about that down in like a future video, but I just wanted to mention that in my video from yesterday, right, we had a lot of signals coming out for Aapl and Tesla and SPY and all these different stocks that looked like the market was getting ready for a nice bounce. And if anything, if there was no news that was too negative that came out, and the news was just pretty normal, we would have seen the market most likely bounce because we had a lot of nice signals, we had lots of buying pressure coming in, and it was very, very evident that that was what was developing, at least based off technical analysis. But then what happened was the morning came today, and we got lots of very, very negative news. The first thing is the fact that there are all these headlines coming out talking about how in China things are getting harder as China's economy is facing a meltdown with massive firms on the brink of collapse. That's what they're saying right here. There's also this news right about here about how, as a result of these hardships and the slowing of demand and the weakening credit amongst the Chinese people, we're starting to see the Chinese central banks cutting rates right now. They're cutting rates to support the economy. That's often a major sign of weakness. We're seeing lowered credit ratings for them. We're seeing more and more failures, and there's a lot more fears of contagion over there. So they're going through something that's a little bit similar to that of 2008. Is it identical? Not necessarily, but there are fears of that. There are fears of something like that developing, and this is once again having a very negative effect on the banking situation over there. As a result of this, the pain happening to China's economy is slowing down exports and imports, and we're starting to see declines in demand over there. With that happening, this is going to have an effect on the US. And as a result of that, given the higher interest rates, Fitch is also warning that it may be forced to downgrade a lot more banks, including JP Morgan Chase. So with Chase potentially getting some kind of downgrade, with other banks out there getting possible downgrades, this is very negative for the US, despite some good news that came out involving the overall retail sales, which did go up a little bit more than expected month over month. The import prices and export prices were also a little bit higher than expected. We're starting to see inflation, increase. And besides that, there wasn't a whole lot else that came out. For tomorrow, we have the FOMC minutes coming out. So we have the FOMC minutes coming out at about 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern time or New York time. That is going to be very impactful, so make sure you're ready for that. As far as NIO goes, unfortunately for NIO, despite getting buy ratings from Deutsche Bank and other analysts, it still is looking very weak. The price-price ratio is dropping. It's continuing to weaken. And then looking at the chart, we tend to be green only about 56% of the time on Wednesdays, but that doesn't really matter. None of this data matters that much because we're just going to see the market react to the FOMC minutes. What isn't good is the fact that the volume right here is very close to average, and yet NIO is selling on high volume. That tells us that NIO is getting lots and lots of sellers, which are bringing the price down, and it's becoming more aggressive than before. So what do I see for the price? If we look at the much larger time frames, okay, the 4-hour time frame looks bearish on NIO, very bearish. It's just continuing to sink. I was hoping we could get a bounce off this 200 EMA, and also because we had a bullish divergence. And despite the bullish divergence that formed, NIO ended up sinking down because of all this bad news that came out. I could not have predicted bad news to come out this morning, yesterday, and sometimes things like this happen. And now that this happened, here's what you want to watch for. So We're going to be watching this imbalance down here around this like 10.86 level. It looks like it is possible for NIO to come down here. If this were to be the case, I believe that that could be a target, but we have to wait and see how we open first. Now, there's a chance that the market could gap down a little bit lower looking at the QQQ, because on the QQQ, there's a possible head and shoulders forming on it. Looking at maybe like the 30 minutes or even the 5 minute, you could see it a lot more clearly. But basically, we have a structure that looks like this. We have like a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder that developed right here. This thing looks like it could come all the way down in the morning to about 364. I think the market might actually gap down a little bit more again, get a little bounce intraday. Very small one, very, very minor little bounce. It's not going to be anything crazy. And then the market is just going to trade sideways, do nothing significant until the FOMC minutes come out at 2 o'clock p.m. The FOMC minutes, if you don't know what they are, they're basically just a transcript of what happened during the FOMC meeting. And we're going to find out more information about the Fed's policies and what these different analysts and Fed officials are thinking. This is going to have a big effect on the market, so expect some high volatility. And whatever these people say and do, and we're going to see a lot of price action responding to that. So I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest with you. It really depends on what on earth the Fed announces. That's why we're going to see a big move for tomorrow. So be ready for a big move. It's going to be coming out about the minutes come out at about, for me, it's going to be 11 o'clock a.m. For people on the East Coast, it's going to be at about 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, or about, I would say, about a couple of hours before the market closes, like 2 hours before close. So that's going to dictate how the market moves. On SPY, looking at the trend, we had a big sell-off to end the day. It still looks relatively weak. It could actually sell off a little bit more during the pre-market tomorrow and actually open around like 442, maybe a little bit lower, then get a bounce and maybe try to make its way back up to 444. Previous support becoming resistance, reject off that and just trades very, very sideways in the lower 440s. And then we're going to see a big reaction after the FOMC minutes. If it pumps the markets, we could see SPY make its way up back to like the 445 plus area to 447. If it's bad news and the Fed is like very hawkish and they say bad things about inflation, expect SPY to get a rug pull and come all the way down to 440, if not the 430s. Okay, I'm being open-minded and honest with you. I'm not going to pick any side and just like make any promises this time around, because the market is becoming more and more capricious. For Tesla, if the market gaps down, we could see this thing open very, very close to where we are. It could test like 230 and balance, make its way up to about 234 or so, maybe 235. Reject off that and continue to trade sideways. Very, very sideways price action should be coming tomorrow, approaching the big event. And then what I'm going to be expecting is a big reaction after the FOMC minutes. If we get very bullish news and the market loves it, we could see Tesla push up for 240. If not, Tesla could get a rug pull back down to 230, if not 228. Finally, for NIO, how could NIO move for tomorrow? Well, we are still looking weak with all the Chinese news that came out. There's no sign of a bounce on this trend. We could see NIO gap down to 11.5, if not even lower than that, and drop lower into like 11.3, this area right here. Then we might see NIO bounce and try to make its way back to about 11.7. Reject off that and just continue to trade sideways. So I'm going to be looking for this a little bit more dropping to open up, bounce intraday, then more sideways price action. And then finally, we have all this data dropping. We have the FOMC minutes, and this is going to have a big effect on the whole market, including NIO. If the market bounces off the minutes, we could see NIO fly back up into the 12s. 12.18 or higher could come. It could try to fill this gap around like 12.6. If the market gets a rug pull, if NIO gets rejected and it's a not good news, the Fed is just too hawkish, they signal more rate hikes and we see more insights on that. If the market sinks more, we could see NIO come all the way down to that level I talked about in the morning, or I'm sorry, very earlier, all the way down into the 10.7 area. That is a possibility. We could see a big drop on NIO. NIO can be making its way down back to the 10.2 area for more downside. That's a real possibility. That's a risk because of all this negative news. So make sure you're prepared for that. And please remain calm, cool, and collected as time progresses. All right, guys. So I know it's not the news you want to hear, but that is what I believe is very probable. Get ready for some big moves for tomorrow, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Market to the moon, because the long term is still very bright despite the short term downside the market is seeing. And peace out.